The Women's Caucus was founded in 1995. Our mission is to promote the interests of women within the Democratic Party, advise the state party on policies affecting the welfare of women, develop programs for the systematic inclusion of women in the decision-making of the party, and assist national, state, and local Democratic organizations in the selection and election of women. I will begin by introducing our panelists and timekeepers. Jacqueline Smith-Bennett is from Columbia County. She's a member. Cumberland County. I always do that, sorry. Sherry Green is from Berks County, and she's a member. And Christine Porter Mitchell is from Erie County, and she is our caucus treasurer. Our timekeeper this evening is Cindy Purvis from Erie County. Raise your hand. All statewide Democratic candidates were invited, and all but 2 candidates have agreed to participate in the forums this evening. We will be holding 3 events this evening. The first forum will present the 1 Democrat up for retention on the Superior Court. The second is a forum presenting the 3 Democrats up for retention on the PA Supreme Court. The third and final forum presents the 1 Democrat vying for the single open seat on the Superior Court. 1 candidate is running for retention on the Commonwealth Court. His name is Judge Michael Wojcik, and he's from Allegheny County. He will not be here this weekend. He was initially going to participate until the meeting date was changed. Here's what he said when he sent his apology to State Committee and to me about him having to back out from participating. He said, "Regrettably, I will be unable to attend the State Committee's winter meeting this year. In September, when I understood that the winter meeting was planned to be held later in January, I planned an out-of-town trip to celebrate my wife's milestone birthday on the weekend of January 9th. When you called me in early December, I did not realize that the meeting was moved into conflict with my wife's birthday trip. I am disappointed that I will be unable to attend the forum, and I hope that the caucus understands my absence." In addition, Judge Brandon Newman from Washington County was the second candidate who had to back out at the last minute. He is currently a judge on the Court of Common Pleas in Washington County. Judge Newman will be running for the 1 open seat on the PA Superior Court. He wrote me this Wednesday evening with his regrets. Things got quite tight and close this time round. Here's what he said. "Thank you for setting everything up for the forum. As I indicated from the beginning, there was a chance my court calendar would interfere with my ability to make it to Harrisburg in time for the events on Friday. Unfortunately, my calendar stayed full until the end. The snowstorm made things even worse because our court proceedings were all canceled on Monday. Being the State Committee was moved to earlier in the year, it was very hard to clear my calendar on such a shorter than expected notice. I wanted to give you enough notice. Thank you again for all you do, and I sincerely apologize for any inconvenience." To set the stage for all 3 remaining forums, we need to let you know that the candidates for the judiciary can respond to questions and concerns from the public. In 2002, the United States Supreme Court, in a case known as Republican Party versus White, struck down another state's law prohibiting judicial candidates from expressing their personal opinions. The questions asked of the candidates this evening will seek general information about each candidate's legal jurisprudence experience and their views on jurisprudence as they relate to each issue, but not on how they might rule in any future case. We recognize that answers to these questions are not intended to bind any decision in any particular case where a specific set of facts may lead to a judgment different from the candidates' views this evening. Any background the candidates want to tell about themselves may be presented during their opening and closing statements. Our first forum will present the Democratic judge running for retention on the Superior Court. The Superior Court is one of two co-equal courts in Pennsylvania that handles the Commonwealth's first level of appeals. There are two courts at this first level. They are the Commonwealth Court and the Superior Court. I'd like to tell you the difference so you know where we're focusing on. The Commonwealth Court generally handles matters involving school funding, state probation and parole matters, workers' compensation, unemployment compensation, licensing, land use, insurance, and state election disputes, as well as any other appeal involving a local or county government. It also handles trials where the Commonwealth is a party in the suit. In contrast, the Superior Court handles every other type of case, which is why I talk about the Commonwealth first. We have one judge running for retention on the Superior Court. She is Judge Alice Beck-Dubois from Philadelphia County. The format for this forum is as follows. There will be a 2-minute opening and a 2-minute closing statement from Judge Beck-Dubois. She will then be asked 3 questions. She also has 2 minutes to answer each question. As you can see, she is here this evening. The timekeeper will display a card with 1 minute, a second card at 30 seconds, and a stop sign at time. You may finish your sentence once the stop sign is put up. Because I can't be down there to blow the whistle, we will not be using the whistle this evening. Okay, we will first have our candidates' opening statement. Judge Beck-Dubois, please proceed.
Okay. Well, first, I want to thank everybody for all your support you actually gave us in 2015. For those of you who were around in 2015. And one reason I'm doing it now is, as you know, I spent 2015 campaigning, meeting a lot of you at that point. You were really helpful. I win, and then the door is shut by the Code of Judicial Ethics, and I can't come out. I can't thank you. But I'm back running for retention, so the first thing I want to do is to thank everybody for all your help. 2015 was an amazing year. The 5 of us were running. It was a Democratic sweep, and not only did we sweep all 5 positions, we did it big time. We won with more than 54% of the vote. And that wasn't just because of the candidates themselves, that was the campaigns, and that was the members of the state committee and the members who were sitting in this room. You got out the vote, and you really helped us win. And when we ran in 2015, I remember one day I was sitting with Mike Wojcik. As you heard, he's with his wife. As I talked to him this morning, and he said that they're spending the weekend in the Gulf of America, which is a new name for it. So anyway, I was sitting with Mike one day before an event, and I said to Mike, you know what? It looks like all our names start with DW, the 5 of us. We had Doherty, we had Dubois, we had Donahue, we had Wecht, and we had Wojcik. And Mike turns to me and he's like, yeah, that's right. And that means Democrats win. The one reason we won was that we all worked together, and when we all work together, we all win. Now, this year for retention, there are the 5 of us, but we've got 2 others. We have Stella Zai, who is running for Commonwealth Court, and Brandon Newman, who is, can't finish my sentence, running for Superior Court. Now, even though their last names don't start with D or W, we need to support them anyway. It's really important to get all 7 of us onto the court.
Thank you. Now on to our questions. Ms. Smith-Bennett, please ask the first question.
Good evening. Good evening. How has your approach to deciding cases changed over your 10 years of service on the bench?
So let me just start a little bit, give you a better sense of Superior Court and what we do on Superior Court. We are a court that actually deals with individuals. We deal with individuals. We deal with families. We deal with communities. You're going to hear a lot about Commonwealth Court and the Supreme Court. They often deal with issues that impact the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And they also get a lot more publicity about what they do. But for me, I spend my time reviewing criminal convictions. I spend my time reviewing child custody cases. I spend my time reviewing will contests. And even though my cases may not impact every person in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, my decisions will impact that child. My decisions are going to impact that family. My decisions are going to impact that neighborhood. And in terms of how I have evolved over the past 10 years, I have developed a much stronger sensitivity to the actual impact that the cases have on individuals.
Thank you. Ms. Green, please ask our second question.
Please tell us about life experiences that influence your judicial philosophy.
So it's sort of interesting. Before I was on an appellate court, I was a trial court judge as well. And the one life experience that probably influenced me was being a parent. I raised 2 kids who are now in their 30s. I actually became a grandmother last year. But being a parent, you really understand struggles that parents have. You understand difficulties raising children. You also understand how you should be treating people. Being a parent can be really frustrating at times, and being a parent, things don't work out the way you do. And probably it is from those frustrations and those, I don't want to call them failures, but challenges that I've had that really have made me a much more sensitive judge. And it's not just raising kids, but I would say for my entire life, I've had different struggles, different challenges, and it's interesting. You sort of learn a lot more from your challenges and your struggles, and that's what also makes you much more sensitive to people who are struggling and facing challenges.
Thank you. For our third and final question, Ms. Porter Mitchell, please ask your question.
Please tell us about 1 or 2 cases you have handled for which you are the most proud.
So I will, so I guess, talking about criminal cases, I review criminal convictions, I review sentences, and a lot of times defendants have committed really terrible, terrible things. My initial reaction when I'm reviewing those cases, which is human, is that person really should be locked up. That person, should never see the light of day. That person really did a terrible thing. And that's my initial emotional reaction. But what I have learned, especially you learn this as a judge, your emotions can't drive your decision. So the second part of what I have to do is I have to say, but did that defendant have a fair trial? Did that defendant have an adequate attorney? Did that defendant have a case in which the police didn't overreach? Did the trial judge enter evidence that was highly prejudicial? And there are times that I have come to the conclusion that that defendant didn't get a fair trial. Or I had a case where a defendant didn't speak English but didn't have a translator. And as painful as it was for me, I had to order a new trial for that defendant. And even though I knew that the victims were going to have to come and testify again, to me it was more important to the system and not to have an emotion reaction. And what was more important was that the defendant have a fair trial and that the defendant get to have another trial where he has a translator, where he has competent lawyer, where the trial court doesn't allow in highly prejudicial evidence. So in terms of the cases that I'm most proud of, those are them.
Thank you for your response. You'll now give your closing statement. You will have 2 minutes.
Okay. So this is we're in a new political landscape in 2025. Up to this point, retention elections have never been contested. They've never been political. The retention elections are in November. It just would have the judges' names. It didn't even have their political party. The political parties didn't need to get involved. But we now are in a much more politically divisive world, and we are in a world where the Republicans are really unhappy with the members of the Supreme Court. And they are going to spend money, and they are going to get voters to vote no for the Supreme Court justices. The target's on their back. I don't think the target will be on my back, but there will be so much ugly noise about the judiciary and that we're corrupt and that we don't care about anybody that it will trickle down. Voters just have a yes-no vote. And that is why in 2025, we really need your help again, like you gave us in 2015, to really fight back and to present to the voters what the judiciary is like and what we are like, and that voters should ignore all the negative noise that they're going to hear and that they really need to vote yes for all of the retention judges.
Thank you.
And also I'm going to throw it in too because we are running as a slate, but you will hear more about the judges who are running for, one judge, Brandon Newman, for Superior Court, Stella Zai for Commonwealth Court. It's really important that we have Democrats on those courts because I can tell you there is a difference in philosophy between Democrat and Republican members of the court, and it's really, really important to have judges who respect the values that the Democratic Party stands for.
Thank you, Judge Bechdebel, for participating in this retention forum this evening. We will now ask you to step down and have the 3 PA Supreme Court retention candidates move up to the stage. Hand me those cards. The wrong side.
You take it all the time you need, David.
Did you take my seat?
No, of course not. That was yours, sir.
So what you'll need to do is turn it off when you're not speaking. Thank you. Our second forum will now start. We are presenting the 3 Democratic candidates for the retention on the PA Supreme Court. We have 3 justices on the Supreme Court seeking retention for another 10 years on the bench. The first justice is Justice David N. Wecht from Allegheny County. The second justice is Justice Christine L. Donahue from Allegheny County. And the third justice is Justice Kevin Doherty from Philadelphia County. The format for the open Supreme Court retention forum is as follows. All 3 candidates will make a 2-minute opening and a 2-minute closing statement. There will be a total of 3 questions asked in this forum, and each candidate will then have 2 minutes to answer each question. The timekeeper will display a card when 1 minute is left, a second card when 30 seconds remain, and then we'll hold up the stop sign. You may finish your sentence once the stop sign is put up. Again, I will not be blowing the whistle. Justice Wecht, please provide us with your opening statement.
Thank you very much, Joanne. It's so nice to be back here. And none of you are old enough to remember this, but in 98, you elected me vice chair of this state party. In 2001, I stepped down in order to pursue a judicial career. It's nice to have the rare opportunity to come back in front of you and say hello to some longtime friends and meet some new ones, and I'm excited to be here. And excited to be here with my colleagues and longtime friends, Christine Donahue and Kevin Doherty. We ran together in 2015. Here we are, a little older, hopefully a little wiser, 10 years later. A little grayer. In my case, a lot grayer. Some of you may have noticed on the sides here. And yeah, not Justice Donahue. She's ageless. So, here's the thing. When we took office, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania had come upon some hard times. There were scandals, there were power struggles, there were turf battles, acrimony, etc. And we talked among ourselves, and we agreed we were interested in law, not power. We were interested in setting the Supreme Court on the right course, getting it right, focusing on law, not focusing on nonsense. I think in the last 10 years, we've delivered that. You may agree with case X, you may disagree with case Y. But you're getting what you pay for. You're getting fair judges. You're getting judges who go to work every day, decide the cases conscientiously according to what the law is, and applying the law to the facts. And you're entitled to that. And you're entitled to not have judges distracted as people were in the past. So we're asking for another 10 years and hope you'll give it to us. Looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will hear from Justice Donahue.
Thank you. Hard act to follow, because I think Justice Wecht said it all in terms of what we've brought to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. We have a court right now that is well respected across the country. And we are a court that operates seamlessly in terms of getting out our opinions, deciding our cases, and all that is wonderful. We're here to ask you to let us continue to do what we're doing. You know, retention elections are funny things, and I don't think voters actually appreciate what happens every 10 years. And it's an opportunity for voters to step back and say, are we happy what these justices have done over the course of their term in office? And so it's a yes-no vote. It's odd because we really don't have opponents. And trust me on this, it is a position of the three of us that when you decide who to retain in November on the ballot, you should vote yes for every one of us, because we have served you well. My time, she's going to tell me I'm going to have to stop, and then I'm going to say, who's the judge here, really? But I won't. I just want you to keep in mind as you listen to us today that on a regular basis, PCN, who's here with us today, they do a fabulous service to the people of the Commonwealth. They actually tape our oral argument sessions. And if you want to know what Justice Wecht, Justice Doherty, and Justice Donahue do, watch PCN. And you will see that we are prepared, we are gracious, we are kind to people who appear before us. And I encourage you to watch what we do as justices of Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Now we will hear from Justice Doherty.
One, thank you for the invitation, and two, it's good to be back. It's been 10 years, so the three of us are a little rusty. The truth is, we're a 3-for-1 deal. We came in together, we've served together, and we've done everything as a team. We may not always agree, but when we disagree, it's with respect for each other and our respective positions. That's important. But what I would like everyone to understand is that our Supreme Court is the backstop for democracy. We guarantee free and fair elections. We guarantee reproductive rights. We're going to constitutionalize the issues that are important to us. But right now, there's an incredible push to remove the three of us as well as the other two and change. We are a swing state. I ask you, I implore you, please consider retaining us, because without us there, Pennsylvania's way of choosing votes, loving, and approaching democracy will forever be different.
Thank you. Now, on to our questions. These candidates will be questioned in the order in which they were initially confirmed participation in this forum. And FYI, none of the candidates in any of the forums have received these questions in advance. So if there's a question that they recognize, it's only because it got selected from the pool of questions. We will rotate down the line to give each.
I was telling Joanne her time is up.
Then they will rotate down the line to give each of them a chance to answer one question. Ms. Green, please ask the first question.
What should voters consider when deciding to retain Supreme Court justices?
I think their aptitude with electronic gadgets. I think that because the availability of information with the court's own website, the court's social media presence, and electronic databases, citizens now of all walks of life and of all ages and areas of our Commonwealth can go online and search and read what the justices have done, what our court has done, the kinds of decisions we've reached. I think it's important to try to understand what the court's done over the last 10 years. For example, we struck down the flamboyantly gerrymandered U.S. House districts, which were an insult to democracy for people of all parties. An outrage against the concept of one person, one vote, and certainly a violation, as the clear majority held, of our own Pennsylvania free and equal elections clause. They should read our decision vindicating our constitutional right under Pennsylvania's Constitution to a thorough and efficient system of public education. We struck down and reversed the precedent that had made that constitutional right a dead letter for Pennsylvanians. Now that right has meaning in our Commonwealth. They should look at our decisions vindicating our Pennsylvania right to clean air, pure water, and a pristine natural environment. An amendment which does not exist in the U.S. Constitution, but which we protect under our own Pennsylvania Constitution. And they should read about our defense of privacy rights, including women's health care choices and reproductive choices, which we vindicated under our Declaration of Rights in Pennsylvania's Constitution. I think those were the starting points.
Okay. Thank you. Justice Donahue, you have 2 minutes to answer this same question.
I'm going to start along that theme, and I'm going to ask you to think about one of the more recent decisions that the three of us participated in. In 1971, the citizens of Pennsylvania adopted an Equal Rights Amendment. It was the first Equal Rights Amendment in any state constitution in the United States. And under that Equal Rights Amendment, it was dedicated to making certain that women were treated equally under the law. So from 1971 until the mid-1980s, the Equal Rights Amendment was read the way that it was written, which is, if you're a woman, you have equal rights. And somewhere in the mid-1980s, everything went astray. And the Pennsylvania Supreme Court started following the United States Supreme Court on this issue. But let me point out to you, there is no Equal Rights Amendment under the United States Constitution. So where were we going? Well, we had the opportunity about a year ago to set the matter straight. In Pennsylvania, a woman is entitled to equal benefits, and that includes medical benefits, because in the mid-1980s, the way that was twisted on its head, the court said only women can have babies, therefore, there's no way to make them equal with men, therefore, the government doesn't have to pay for abortion services. Well, that's just downright backwards. It's because women can have children, and that is part of their sex, that they are entitled to equal benefits under the law. And so we held.
Thank you. Justice Dougherty, your turn.
Permit me to share with you the other authority of the court. What Justice Weck and Donahue shared with you was our jurisprudential aspect. But the Constitution also permits and requires that our court have the supervisory and administrative duties of managing all the courts and access to justice. And during our tenure, we have created Autism in the Courts, in which we are educating throughout Pennsylvania an awareness of the number of autistic individuals who are seeking some form of justice or participating in the justice program. We have also created the very first mental health summit, in which was convened in Hershey just a few months ago. We had over 500 attendees from the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch, and it's controlled by the judiciary. And what we're trying to do is make everyone aware that mental health should not be criminalized, that the most at-risk and vulnerable in our society need a fair and equal shot at justice. And our court has been very strongly moving forward in social justice and criminal justice reform. And I think if they remove us, so will those programs that are going to benefit those most in need of services.
Thank you. Ms. Porter Mitchell, please ask our second question.
You've heard many types of cases as a Supreme Court justice over the last 10 years. What type of case was the most difficult?
Well, they're all manner of cases and all manner of topics and subject matter areas. I suppose we could say one level of deep challenge was when we did take the bull by the horns and set the U.S. House redistricting process aright so it would comply with our Pennsylvania Constitution. We all spent a lot of long days and nights, including weekends, doing that ourselves. We invited the General Assembly to present us maps that would comply with our Constitution, and they thumbed their nose at us. Really, I mean, they actually supplied nothing. So we had to draw the maps ourselves with the assistance of one of the nation's top experts. So I would say that was certainly one of the most challenging. Certainly, some of the hours reminded me of when I was an associate at a law firm. I can tell you that. I wasn't expecting all-nighters at this age. So that was one level of challenge. And I think really the more one gets steeped in the facts of any given case, the more one can come to appreciate a lot of the human struggles and agonies that are involved in all manner of things, whether it's a child custody matter, a criminal case, or what have you. But I single out that one case because of the number of hours, and God bless him, Justice Dougherty actually moved over to Pittsburgh for about a week and visited. So anyways, I think my time's coming up. I'll stop there.
So just real quickie, we're supposed to be rotating down the line.
I jumped the gun.
You jumped the
But
gun.
that's okay.
I was so excited by the question.
We're good. Once we get into a pattern,
Yeah. So I'm going to offer to the two of you, every one of you wants to go first, and then we'll get back on track for the next one.
Well, we're creatures of habit. So, therefore, I'm going to harken back to the case that I talked about first, which was our decision on the Equal Rights Amendment in Pennsylvania. And as I indicated to you, in the mid-1980s, our Supreme Court made a decision that was very different than the decision that we made. They came to a conclusion that was very different than the one that we came to. And I think the hardest thing as a justice is to make the analysis and lead to the conclusion that you need to overrule the decision of a prior Supreme Court. Very difficult, because it can't be because you disagreed with what that court did. It has to be because they got it wrong. They got it wrong under the Constitution, they got it wrong under the language, they got it wrong under the intent of the people of Pennsylvania when they adopted that Constitution. And so to make a conclusion, as we did, to overrule a precedent that existed since 1984 was very difficult. I had the privilege of writing the majority opinion in that case, and I can tell you that I spent months, and I mean literally months, analyzing, thinking, considering, and making certain that what I was proposing was correct. They're the hard decisions. When you don't work from a clean slate, you better get it right, because that's why people respect the law. People respect the law because the decision is thoughtful and correct. And that's what I think the hardest thing that I've had to do since I've been on the court.
The hardest thing on the court is to pick your hardest case or most important case. The reality is that unlike our colleagues in Superior and Commonwealth Court, Superior Court is an error-correcting court. The decisions we make impact 13.5 million Pennsylvanians. So to say one particular case in my mind, I cannot just say that, because whether it's a mineral rights case in the parts of Pennsylvania that have to endure that, or a fracking issue, or a dependency issue, I could share with you, to me it's just as important to defend constitutional rights as it is for same-sex parents to be able to adopt and not have these roadblocks that stop true ability to love and take the most at-risk and vulnerable. I always say that because I truly believe in our system, the executive branch and the legislative branch, that's majority rules. But the judiciary, we give the minority an equal footing. And a minority is just not necessarily what we perceive as minority. It's those who don't have as much of a voice as the other side. That's the beauty of our job. So with that power, we have the right to correct wrongs and really make it an equal playing field for any Pennsylvania. So that would be my response.
Thank you. Ms. Smith Bennett, please ask our third question, and we will start with Justice Dougherty after that.
There we got it straight.
Okay. So what attributes and qualifications do you seek when hiring law clerks?
So,
Let me be real honest with you. What I tell every law clerk who comes into my office is the first rule in my world is I don't do mean. I don't like mean people. I don't like mean comments. I don't like sarcasm. And I don't want writing that's vindictive and personal. Obviously, you want someone who has intelligence and has maybe some experience. But I have to share with you, I've hired people right out of law school who have been phenomenal writers, and I've had to remove some law clerks who've had years of experience, but they've become jaded and were bored or tired. So my basis is very fundamental. There's only 10 in our office. We have to work together each day, every day. I want it to be a collegial atmosphere. Not necessarily a family, although I do say it's a family. But I just want an office that people will smile when you walk in. We're doing the good work. That should be enough. And I also need individuals who are professional. It's not my job to watch you, nor do I want to watch you make sure you come in at 9 or leave at 5. This is not that type of working environment. This is giving me your best. But if you have a sick baby at home, let me know, because family first. So I run my chamber as I would run my family. Speak nicely, take care of each other, and do your job.
thank you. Justice Wecht, your turn.
It's a fun question because actually one of the things I enjoy the most every year is seeing these resumes from these phenomenal law students. It's incredible the accomplishments and the skills that young people have. I'm blown away each year. They seem to get more and more qualified, and it's really quite agonizing to have to choose because there's I only have one vacancy a year, and they're tremendous. What I do is I go through the resumes and then I select those to interview, and I spend a lot of time with those two aspects of the process. But the third thing I do is I send them down to the conference room with a like a half a judicial opinion. It's got the facts and the procedural history, and I've seeded it with errors, both syntactical, grammatical, and otherwise. And then I give them a couple short cases decided by our Superior Court, actual cases, and I have them over over a period of time, I have them write the rest of the opinion. And it's been a wonderful. It's a made-up fact pattern. The fact pattern is made up, but then I grade them, so to speak, blind. I just have no idea who they are. It's only at the back end of the process that I then go and am able to correlate the rating I've done of these applicants with the people that I met in the interviews and through their resumes. And it's been very enjoyable for me to work with, and it's also, I think, led me to make some determinations on who to bring in that might have struck me as counterintuitive just based on the paper I get.
Wow, thank you. Justice Donahue, it's your turn.
I don't do any of that.
Dartboard?
First of all, we get resumes from sort of the best and the brightest, so we're blessed in that regard. And then the thing I look at is background. My mother was a seamstress in a dress factory, and my father was a coal miner. And so when I look at a resume, I tend to focus on the background of these young men and women, all who are going to be stars, where they came from and what brought them to being in law school and in my chamber. So that's number one. I'm going to tell you something. You're going to know how I pick law clerks. I'm going to mention a name of a law clerk, and you're going to know the name. Jill Beck was my law clerk. And I know when Jill was talking to you, she told you that she was my law clerk, and I'm telling you that she's an example of how I look for law clerks. She is bright, she was empathetic, she had a fabulous, diverse background, a joy to be with, a good writer, and that's what you look for in law clerks. Every law clerk that you have, and I've learned this over, 17 years now, they all bring something different to the mix. They all bring something different. Some more than others, but I've never had a law clerk that was really a flop. I've had law clerks who I've candidly told at the end of their term with me that in order to really move on with their career, they may want to consider something other than a writing type of legal position. And there are many of those. There are many, many, many of those. And some people just aren't cut out for that. But I mean, having law clerks is a joy, and we're lucky. And so every one of them is a new experience.
Great, thank you. Thank you for your responses to these questions. As we previously announced, we will be moving on to closing statements. These statements will be basically done in reverse order. Since Justice Donahue hasn't had a chance to speak first, you're on.
All right. Get that clock running. So why should you vote yes for these three justices sitting before you? It's because these three justices have always had in their view the working people of Pennsylvania and the individuals in Pennsylvania, individuals over corporate interests. Our court as a whole has been very diligent in deciding cases that impact the vast majorities of people. I'm going to give you an example of something we haven't talked about, but this is something that was intended to help working class people, and that's the mail-in voting law. Act 77 was a blessing to people who work shifts and can't show up at polling places at any given hour on any given day. It is a blessing to disabled individuals who find it difficult, if not impossible. It's a blessing to elderly people who have the time to decide at home how they're going to vote and then put it in the mail. We had 3 challenges to the constitutionality of Act 77 to cut it down. That goes to the heart of what helps working people in Pennsylvania. And this court upheld Act 77 under those challenges. And it's just indicative of, I think, what you'll see in our jurisprudence. I mean, at the end of the day, this Commonwealth is made up of citizens, most of whom are working people. And at the end of the day, when we decide cases, each and every one of those cases impacts working people. And I urge you to look at our jurisprudence, because I think when you do, you will decide that voting yes for Donahue, Doherty, and Wecht is the only reasonable thing to do under the circumstances.
Thank you. Justice Wecht?
So I think I want to make 3 points in closing. The first one is that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we've set this ship right. This ship was leaking. We fixed it along with our fine colleagues. The court is functioning well, and we ought to sustain it. We shouldn't dump the 3 of us and then go back to the bad old days of chaos and acrimony and heaven knows what. So that's number 1. Number 2, this is a nonpartisan election. It was designed to avoid head-to-head battles and allow the citizens to retain judges who merited retention. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because all of you are activists, but you're not only activists in the Democratic Party, you're active people in your communities generally. And you have lots of friends and acquaintances who are Republicans or independents or just non-engaged voters. We hope that you'll reach out to those people. Most people are fair-minded, whether they're Republican, Democrat, independent, or what have you. And most people don't follow politics and elections as closely as you. But if you talk to them about the fact that their tax money is paying for a court that functions well and is looked at around the country as a court that functions well, without infighting, without chaos, and functions efficiently and well and writes good law decisions, they might listen to you and they might be inclined to vote yes as they should. And the third thing is, this is not till November. You won't see our names on the ballots in the May primary. It's going to be a low turnout election in November. We'll be at the end of the ballot because it's a retention. So your ability to reach out to people, including by social media, is critically important. That's the whole social media thing has ballooned, as you know, since we ran in 2015. It's really a thing now. It's not a thing I'm really into, but it's a thing, and we need you to get into that thing and really explode it out there with a positive message calling for our retention. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Doherty, Justice Doherty.
First, thank you for letting us reintroduce ourselves to you. Most people don't realize that we on the bench, once we're elected, we are forbidden and precluded from participating in politics. Yet, I wish each and every one of you share with your people in your community about that. I've been approached to say, oh, now you need our help. Where have you been for the last years? And I have to share with them and say, that's for the executive and the legislative. You don't want to see us because we start hanging out with you. They're going to ask us to recuse ourselves. So I would ask that you share that message, that we're not hiding. It's just required. 2, from a very pragmatic perspective. I'm Kevin Doherty, These are my best friends, Christine Donahue and David Weck. Would you please vote for us as a yes? And lastly, as Justice Weck said, the concern that I have on retention is that everybody's looking at the top of the ballot. We're at the bottom of the ballot. And data and statistically, most people stop voting. Please share with them that we may be difficult to find, but I promise you we're worth the look.
Thank all three of you for your wonderful answers. We will now move on to the Commonwealth Court open seat.
Oh, I see.
That way. Thank you. We're now on to our third forum for the evening. This will present the Democratic candidate for the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court. As I stated in the first forum, I'd like to let you know what the Commonwealth Court does. The Commonwealth Court generally handles matters involving school funding, state probation and parole matters, workers' compensation, unemployment compensation, licensing, land use, insurance, state election disputes, and any other appeal involving local or county government. It also handles at the trial level any case where the Commonwealth is a party in this suit. So just what that means is if someone is suing the state, it doesn't go to a county court. It goes directly to the Commonwealth Court, and in that case, they act like a regular trial jury.
That's the benefit.
We have one candidate running for Superior Court. There's just one seat open on this court this year, and our candidate is Stella M. Tsai. She is currently a judge on the Court of Common Pleas in Philadelphia. Like the other two forums, the format is as follows. Judge Tsai will make a 2-minute opening and a 2-minute closing statement. There will be 3 questions in the forum, and she will have 2 minutes to answer each question. The timekeeper will display a card at 1 minute.
That's you. Okay.
A second card at 30 seconds, and then stop. You may finish your sentence once the stop sign is put up. However, I will not be blowing the whistle, which you were told I might do. It's not going to happen.
Okay. I know, I was worried about that part.
We will first have your opening statement.
Okay. You ready for me? Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Stella Tsai, and thank you for allowing me to be your closer this evening. Thank you to Democratic Women's Caucus for having us, and I wanted to just share a little bit about who I am. I am a judge of the Court of Common Pleas in Philadelphia. I'm currently assigned to the Orphans Court Division, where we do trust estates, guardianships, et cetera, and a little bit of fraud. And I also have served in the Criminal Division, the Civil Division, and the Family Court Division during my tenure at the Court of Common Pleas. I was appointed in 2016 and won election in my own right in 2017. I decided to run for Commonwealth Court shortly after Judge Slicer announced her decision to retire, because I know that the decisions of this court had the potential to affect all people in the Commonwealth on very important issues, such as elections, voting rights, reproductive rights. You've heard the justices and Judge DeBow discuss the importance of these matters. So my 30-plus career has equipped me for this role. I've served both in the government and also as a lawyer. I have a great track record with my appeals, and I have an unswerving commitment to ethics and making sure that that we do the right thing by our people. As a lawyer, I advocated for equal access to justice, and continue to do so in the sense that I am now allowing those. I consider those issues in my courtroom. I want to make sure that everyone understands that the decisions we make affect real people and real lives, and I will complete my sentence. There it is.
Thank you. Now on to the questions. Ms. Porter Mitchell, please ask the first question.
Do you think that guns have a place in public schools, and why or why not?
And that's as far as this issue is concerned, I will address it to the extent I may. Personally, from my own perspective, and I would not decide things necessarily on this basis because I have to look at the case in front of me. I do think that they pose a danger to the students, and there are better ways to effectively control and monitor for safety.
Okay. Anything else you want to say on it?
On that particular issue?
Yeah.
I think that we have to see which regulations it comes in, but I think that we have to do what's best for the community. And given all the data that's out there about the dangers that weapons pose to individuals and where there are potential for accidents, it seems to me that it's a public safety hazard to actually have them in schools. And as we've seen, and I'll just talk as a citizen, that when we've had those types of resources, they are not deployed, and it becomes very dangerous. And having worked in the area of public safety as part of my work at the city law department, I understand that you have to have people who are trained. You have to have people who understand how to use these weapons, and it's not necessarily the most effective way to ensure the school safety.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, that's personal opinion.
Ms. Beth Bennett, please ask our second question.
Cases involving state and local governments' failure to correctly handle allegations of abuse by their employees can be appealed to the Commonwealth Court. What have you done to protect the alleged victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking in your legal experience?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I did have an opportunity to work with individuals involved in children in particular, in dependency cases, and it's a little different than what you're talking about in the workplace. I also, not as a judge, but as a person who operated or was the manager of a number of individuals, we had to make sure that we had appropriate policies in place to ensure that individuals did not act on certain their behaviors. So it is critical that people understand what the rules of engagement are and how to treat each other with respect in the workplace. And we need to make sure that there is proper safety protocols and that we have safety plans for individuals who might be exposed to those kind of dangers. But we have to be very, very careful to make sure that we have proper security and in our particular workplaces, because it should be easy. We should make sure that our workplaces are a place where we can just continue to do our work and not have to worry about these issues.
Thank you. Ms. Green, please ask the third question.
What criteria would you use as an appellate court judge to recuse yourself from a case?
That's a very good question. A lot of it's laid out already in the Code of Judicial Conduct. So we just need to make sure that we apply those. And essentially, there are matters which require us to disqualify ourselves. For example, if we happen to know somebody who is we happen to have a family relationship with a party, those are for the easier calls. The more difficult situation is when you might have some relationships with individuals, you're friends with the person who might appear in front of you. I myself ensure that whenever decision I make will not be influenced perhaps either by perception or by myself, as the quality of the justice needs to be intact. So I just ensure that when I'm looking at a specific issue, that I speak with my staff to make sure that I am making an appropriate decision. And we often what I'll do is I'll disclose if I feel that there is a potential issue, and let them have an opportunity, the parties have an opportunity to test whether I should recuse myself from a matter. But it's a very specific, there's a whole procedure that we follow in order to make sure that we do things appropriately, because it's really important that our decisions are perceived to be fair and appropriate.
Great, thank you. You now have 2 minutes to wrap up.
So as a candidate for the Commonwealth Court, I stand before you knowing that I stand on the shoulders of so many people who have come before me to ensure that we have a system, democracy, that allows us to participate as citizens in our government, in our community, without fear or without the fear of, and we're not governed by religion or by race. That's not the rule. We don't have mob rule. It's important to me because it's important that we have this sense of democracy, and because we have this system of government, my parents who came here from a country where, Taiwan, where it wasn't the case, and they sought to leave that type of government where you rule by fear, it is important for us to maintain it. And for it to survive, we do need to have a strong, independent judiciary, much like that's provided now by our Supreme Court that needs to be retained, and our Superior Court judges and our Commonwealth Court Judge Wojak. And I'm up to the task. I know what it's like to go in every day, to put on that robe, defend, protect, and preserve the Constitution, and hold the rule of law, and to ensure the fair administration of justice. And I would be happy to do so, and would be honored to do so as a judge of the Commonwealth Court. So thank you.
Thank you, Judge Tsai, for participating in this Commonwealth Court Open Seat Candidates Forum. I'd like to move on to a wrap-up thank yous for this evening. First of all, I would like to thank every single judge and justice that participated this evening. Your responses, in my personal opinion, were some of the best that I have heard in the 28 years that we have held this forum. Thank you all so very much. Thank you to the Women Caucus members who helped craft and rank the questions for this forum. Thank you to the questioners and timekeepers for their excellent work keeping us on time this evening. We'd like to thank the staff of the Pennsylvania State Party who assisted with the technical setup of our first of this candidates forum. To the members of the audience and to the public listening in on PCN TV, thank you for your interest in these critical races. We hope you take what has been said to heart this evening. To the Harrisburg Hilton Hotel and Tower staff, thank you for setting up this room tonight. And also thank you for helping set up the area outside the Harrisburg Ballroom where dinner is being held this evening for our bake-off. There are things out there. That bake-off will be help raise funds for our Catherine Baker Knoll Scholarship. We finally want to thank PCN once again for airing this live and then for taping this event for later rebroadcasting. As previously noted, PCN will be rebroadcasting this event on Tuesday, January 14th at 9 a.m., Wednesday, January 15th at 3 p.m., and Friday, January 17th at 10:15 a.m., and will then be posted on their free half of the site through the primary election season. So tell your friends that if they want to hear what has been said this evening, to go to PCN, to the election section of the PCN TV website, and they can actually hear what has been said this evening. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.